Now let's go back to another subject. So let's go to English. Okay, we'll go to your the two firsts after. But with English Advanced, so talk to us about that. You said that was a bit of a struggle, but you ended up doing really well. So run us through your kind of progression there and where you were at in year 11 and year 12, because some people think that it's only the students who are already right at the top that are going to get the big marks. But what was your experience?
Yeah, like I said, I'd never been, I feel like people think they're a maths person or an English person. So I kind of always thought I was a maths person. And I was never that great at English. I feel like I just never really got it, and it just clicks. And that hadn't really happened for me. Even my first year 12 assessment, it was like an essay in class. And I did really badly in it. And I was like, I've been trying so hard and nothing is working. But I think my biggest tip for that is to like lose your fear of criticism. Because when I took it to my teacher, I was like, literally roast me and tell me what I'm doing wrong. That is when it completely changed. And I was like, okay, and like learning how every sentence has to be meaningful, like getting rid of all the words that think like you think make you sound smart. I really had a tendency to do that. Um, but yeah, I think just when you can cop getting bad feedback is when things really change or change for me.
Yeah, and having the humility to actually change what you have based on that feedback, right? It's what even to get the feedback is one thing, and then to actually actively,
Yeah.
implement that feedback. It takes a certain level of humility, but you end up going a lot better as was your experience. What was the key with your study pattern with English? You can talk to us about pre-assessments or staying on top of the modules. What was kind of key when you look back at that year?
Yeah, I think definitely focusing on the modules which you don't like is really important because for me, common module I was always quite good at. So I had a tendency to like just keep touching up my essays for that and like writing them out. When really things like Mod C reflections, which I found like so tedious, doing
Mm.
things like that is what will actually benefit you, and you just really have to motivate yourself to actually do it. And then in terms of like the essays leading up to the exams, I had about like five or six theses like in my back pocket for each module,
Hmm.
which I could turn into an essay. And obviously I started with a lot more, so like 12 different paragraphs, which obviously is really unreasonable to like memorize that many different paragraphs. But
Yeah.
having like five or six that you know really well and can apply to lots of different questions and ones that you know fit together to make a cohesive essay,
Hmm.
that's kind of how I went about it.
So five or six
And yeah.
paragraphs, was it? Did you say?
Yeah, well, some of the quotes and like analyses will overlap because
Yeah.
like five or six is a lot, but having like different key like subheadings, I guess you could
Mm.
call it,
Topic
that
sentences,
would fit.
points.
Yeah. That would fit under like one cohesive overarching thesis
Mm.
is like what I kind of did.
And did you have to think in advance about how you would order those paragraphs for different questions? Were they moving around a lot, or did you feel that by the end there would always be this one at the top, and then this one would always be your last paragraph? How did that work out?
Yeah, that was the case in module B, I think, because I did David Malouf, so there's a lot of different poems.
Hmm.
Scariest part was going into that. I know everyone was worried that they were going to ask for a specific poem.
Hmm.
So in cases like that, I feel like you just have to have a really broad understanding. But things like module A, I know that I kind of always went to the same. I did because it's a comparative. I did like integrated paragraphs. So I just did two really big paragraphs as my body.
Okay.
And I kind of always ended up using the same two.
Mm.
So, it varies for all the different modules, but yeah.
Mod A is a bit more general in terms of the questions they ask because they're looking at more
Yeah.
about at the relationship between two texts and what that does versus the specific themes or like critical perspectives on one of those texts. So
Yeah.
I think Mod A is a little bit easy to prepare in that sense, but it's harder in terms of getting everything into that essay because you've got two texts rather that you're dealing with. So that's its own challenge. I always say with Mod A, the challenge is more about getting it down in time. It's not so much about dealing with super hard questions. But
Yeah.
certainly for Mod B, where it's on one text, and especially with it being a critical study or even a close study for standard, you need to know the text really well in terms of how it's written, so the form, the context, and also all of the specific elements or poems. So did you have, with Maloof, did you have a paragraph for each poem?
Yeah, I started off in, I think it was the term two assessment, doing integrated. So I would do two poems together that kind of had the same kind of theme. But I did the same thing in the trials and the marker did not like it at all. So in the actual HSC, I ended up doing a paragraph per poem, which I think makes sense because it is a critical study. They want to know that you have a really thorough understanding of it. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing.